Hello everyone, Burb here. Today I would like to talk about the fan favorite character, Matikanetannheuser, or who has been lovingly named as Mambo. Whenever we have a double banner like the one that we have next week, I like to pull back one of the Umas in the schedule to give them their own time to shine. So this is everything that I have compiled and researched about Matikanetannheuser. It's a little bit too much, but that's why we call this series a way too in-depth guide. As for the banner, not too much to talk about. This is a 2-star character on a banner with another character that has meta implications in Citizen Black, and we will be getting free pulls. So if we are not unlucky, we will be getting this character for free. And even if we don't get this character on this banner, she will remain in the pool as a 2-star character, and if we have another character that we enjoy on a different banner, we will be getting copies of this character as well. I do have to give the disclaimer that because there's no pity, you technically can be unlucky. There's no failsafe, but at a 2.25% rate, the odds of that are extremely, extremely low. For all you Oshi players, I do not need to give you any more validation, so instead, Mambo, Omatsuri, Mambo. Let's talk about Mambo. Her aptitudes: she is a turf track runner, specifically medium long distance, in the Pace Chaser late surge strategy. You got A's in all of those. You also can stretch her into Mile or End Closer, and End Closer has a little weird thing with her ultimate, but the notable things is that Mile D means that in Track Blazer, because you want Mile C plus just to survive, or Mile B for some consistency, you only need 1 or 2 parent slots to get that aptitude up. And End Closer only requires 4 parent slots worth of sparks to get that to A, and so you can force those pretty easily. Otherwise, medium long track racer in the Pace Chaser or the late searcher position is how Cygames intended her to be. Front as well, technically, as it's an F, but it's a little bit weird. As for her stat bonuses, 20% stamina, 10% guts. I do like these stat bonuses because they are aligned with each other. You want to press the stamina button. Track Blazer has sort of messed up all the different card builds, but I think that most players will need a 3-speed deck, and because you want to press the stamina button, we are suggesting here stamina builds, and then fill up with wit cards with the rest of it. If you feel that you are strong enough, either in your speed cards or with some speed sparks, to run 2 speed cards, you can basically fill up the extra slot with a wit card. Now, you're going to want some power sparks on her, however, because she doesn't have any power bonus. So sparks and power are very good. So you may not want to do 2 speed because the 3rd speed is also going to help you with the power. As far as miles and sprints, she does have a little bit of trouble because stamina bonus is not the greatest in sprints, and for mile, the only thing that you really can use stamina sparks for, or bonus for, is when you press the power button. It does give you more stamina, but it's a little bit niche. Her ultimate, Ready Go for the 2-star, or Go Go Moon for the 3-star, says in the game, recover endurance and moderately increase velocity with newfound resolve when in mid-pack around halfway through the race. What this synthesizes down into is 50% plus distance rate in the mid-race for phase 1 in the order between 3rd and 6th position. If you complete this, you get a 0.055, 0.25 target speed hybrid ultimate. Each of these conditions we are going to go through. Distance rate greater than or equal to 50% means that anywhere past the midpoint via meters in the race, but it's clipped to the mid-race itself. So it's actually in mediums, it actually has a pretty tight timing. Like, it's not prohibitively so, but you do have a decent chance of speed carryover if you satisfy all the conditions at a certain time, which we'll talk about. The other condition is between 3rd and 6th position. As soon as you pass into 3rd to 6th, you will proc this immediately. There's no random point on the track like Super Creeks. This is just you're in 3rd to 6th. You proc it as soon as you get between 3rd to 6th while you are in this timing. Notably, if you're playing End Closer, you may, with a high wit roll, pass into 3rd to 6th, but you are gambling the speed carryover of procking right before the spurt this is one of your recoveries. So you're most likely changing your build with less stamina because you have one of these recoveries. So it's a trade-off that I don't necessarily think is worth it, but it's there if you're playing End Closer in a non-End Closer focused CM. Her actual recovery: on 2-star, you get 0.035, which is a pure heart inherit. At 3-star, you get a full gold recovery. So 2-star is 2 white skills in a little bit, or about 63% of a gold recovery. The 3-star will eventually give you a full gold recovery. And the notable thing about this one is that this is pretty easy conditions to proc, so you can actually rely on her ultimate a lot. We will talk about that in a bit. As for the speed component, it is a 0.25 speed for the 3-star version. It is only a white skill of 0.15 speed for the 2-star version, but we will be talking about the 3-star version from here on out. 0.25 target speed is 1.25 distance units because it is a 5-second ultimate. This is slightly better than Agnes Tachyon, which has a 4-second, and when you inherit them, this means it goes down to the base duration of 3 seconds with a 0.05 target speed, so it's pretty negligible, as opposed to a 2.4 second on Agnes Tachyon with a 0.05. So 0.75 distance units versus 0.6. They're both not great as inherits. You're more apt to use it for the white recovery. Her inherit is nice though because her conditions are so easy to hit. It's 3rd through 6th with no other condition except you need to be between 50 and the mid-race. So on longs, which are the times where you probably will be using more recoveries, that 50% mark is so far behind the mid-race that if you're not in 3rd through 6th, you may be having problems anyways, depending on your actual role. This is different than Agnes Tachyon, who requires 3rd through 4th on a corner after the 50% mark, or Haru Urara, who has the back half of the pack at 6+ on the final corner. It's even easier than that. And of course, Super Creek picks a singular random point in the mid-race, and if you're not in 2 to 4, you lose that skill completely. So Super Creek's ultimate is a great inherit because it's 0.35 recovery, but Mambo's is a lot more reliable, but is only a white skill. So it is comparable to the other white recoveries that you get when you inherit them. All right, her career. Let me grab a drink of water. Her career is a standard medium-long career. It's notably easier than a lot of the long racers because you only need 3rd% in the Kukuka Show. You only need 3rd or better in the absolute killer that is the Tenno Show Spring. In addition, you have a recovery in your kit, so if you fail a race, you can just clock it, and if the recovery procs, a lot of times you're just good in the Tenno Show Spring at like 200 to 300 stamina even. So one of the easier careers, honestly. It does have some flexibility in the early ones, so you just have to place in a G1 race of your choice by the end of the junior year, right? So it's not bad. You get to choose between the Hopeful Stakes or the Sahi High, and then from there, it's just a standard career. This is all disabled in Track Blazer, though. Her events, her special costume event is Hot Topic, so it's not the greatest thing. This does give you Reporter as well as Scenario Link character bonus like your Rico or your Tazuna. It doesn't give you anything for, not Rico or Tazuna. Yeah, Rico when she's not in your deck, etc. A director for URA and whatever one the Track Blazer has. But Hot Topic isn't as good as Charming. It obviously isn't as good as Fast Learner, so it's a little bit unfortunate, but hey, it's not bad. Getting free stuff is good. A long-awaited lunch is her character choice event that gives her a skill and pace strategy. Pace strategy has a problem that change order 1 time greater than 0 means that you want to be passed, and you don't really want to be passed. And gambling your recovery on being passed in the mid-race is not very smart in my personal opinion. So most times you'll be using this as the additional mood up. So she has a choice of an additional mood up, just like Winning Ticket, just like a couple other characters that seem to be pretty nice to build in their careers because you can just counteract with innate choices. Her secret events, which are all disabled in Track Blazer, are 4 specific rival races that are optional races. You can beat Daitaku Helios in the Mile CH, you can try to beat Nice Nature in the Arima Kinen, you can try to beat Ikuno Dictus in the Asuda Kinen, and you can try to beat Twin Turbo in the All Comers, which I believe is her Team Canopus. But you don't necessarily have to even win these races, you just have to place better than the CPU. So you have to place better than the other NPC UMA. Or I guess not NPC, but the computer-controlled UMA. And they usually do increases the stats for these characters, but I have a feeling it's not going to be a Mr. CB situation because this is Team Canopus, and they generally want to make them pretty friendly. So 4 optional races. You have the choice in every scenario except for Track Blazer. If you get them, you get a little bit bonus stats, and you get their specific signature skills. So Daikato Helios gives you Mile Corners, Nice Nature gives you Inside Scoop, Equinodictus gives you Updrafters, and Twin Turbo gives you All I've Got. So if you're running her Mile, you get the good Mile skills. Updrafters is particularly notable as an Excel skill. If you're running her Long, Inside Scoop is a great late race speed skill for longs, and All I've Got for the medium races. Her actual innate skills, she comes with, well, like we said, her event skills, but also Slick Surge. Slick Surge is pretty good for late surgers. It's either, at worst, it's a bonus hint, and at best, it's you do not have to run Nice Nature Wood if you don't have her as a free-to-play, right? Because you get Slick Surge as the white, it's enough to cope with, right? Shake It Out and Homestretch Chase have their own separate problems, really, but I like Homestretch Chase personally. Shake It Out has the problem that it's a late race recovery skill, so it's after the stamina calculation, the stamina spurt calculation. So, and once the late race happens, your Uma makes the calculation, says, do I have enough stamina to complete the race? If she does, she takes a line, the best line, which is the spurt immediately usually. If not, you're gambling whether or not she decides to spurt or not, and you need some additional skills in the late race to actually proc this anyway. So you're gambling on that, It's not a reliable recovery. What this does do is it technically protects you a little bit against debuff skills, but it is a white recovery. It's not the greatest to pick. Homestretch Chase I do like. It is a cinema skill. It is a last spurt speed skill. It does technically can be clipped if it procs too late in the last spurt, but honestly, I mean, late race speed skills are very good, and I like picking them because they are fun to watch. Her problem is her gold skills. Unruffled has a problem in that it is a gold recovery skill that has the condition is surrounded. All right, close your eyes for a bit if you don't like stuff, because this has a wall of text. This requires a Uma in front of you, an Uma beside you, and an Uma behind you. You can technically have a character that satisfies 2 of the conditions, but that is few and far between. It is a very finicky skill to actually proc. This is notably harder to proc than Umastan, because Umastan just requires 3 Umas to be around you. Is Surrounded requires them to be in specific situations, like specific positions compared to you. So if you are trying to use this skill, you need to have other characters in your role, because this is a mid-race skill. So a bunch of pace chasers may proc this, a bunch of late surgers may proc this, a bunch of enclosed may proc this, but it's honestly, with how the mid-race gets spread out, especially on these long tracks when you're using this, it's just finicky. You could possibly use this as an arbitrage against like a long downhill in the mid-race, because the downhill will save you in the times that Unruffled does not proc. But a full gold recovery is expensive when it's not as reliable as other recoveries. Overwhelming Pressure has a separate issue, in that the combination of change order 1 time less than 0 and phase.2 has a specific situation where it just gets eaten up by the Excel zone. Phase 2 is the late race, but not the spurt, and change order 1 time is you have passed somebody. And the thing is that if you hit your acceleration, you are passing people, and if you don't pass people, you're having trouble. It's an arbitrage skill that makes your worst runs better, but your better runs don't get better. So it's anti-high roll, and I don't like those skills in general. If you pass somebody immediately when you hit your acceleration skill, it's going to proc over here and get eaten up by the acceleration zone, because it only increases your target speed. If it procs when you're at max speed, it means you haven't passed anybody yet, and you may not have enough time, even with this skill, to get to the late race. So its value is okay, but it's just less important on longs than pretty much any other late race speed skill that is available, and even mid-race speed skill. So Pressure is just at a tier below the other skills because it can be clipped so easily. As for her CM viability, as long as you can get her aptitudes up, she is viable. She doesn't have anything in her kit that her ultimate will proc in the mid-race 50% to the end of the mid-race, no matter which track you're on. She is track agnostic in that way. And her skills, her long skills are good in longs, her medium skills are good in medium, her mile skills are good in miles. She's a little bit unfocused, which is her issue, and the stamina recovery is really better for mediums and longs. Otherwise, the people who are going to run this character and CMs are the people who like the character. And what I'm here to tell you is that if you like the character, she can be run in those situations, and you can sacrifice a little bit of stamina because of the innate gold recovery in her kit, right? Her affinities. There's one character she really likes, and that's probably the reason why she's on her team. Nice nature. Nice nature. Her affinity with nice nature is absolutely crazy. On Japan, it's 35. So it means in the global server, it's probably around 28 right now, and it's going to be increased to 35 later. To put this in perspective, this is more affinity than any of the B&W members have with each other. So Ticket, Taishin, Biwa, they have 28, 30, and 31. This is 35. This is ridiculously high. In addition, you have Narita Bryan, the upcoming character Mejiro Bright, as well as the original Johnny Musume as other ones that she has good affinity with, and then it drops off a little bit after that. In conclusion, she has good recovery ult, good aptitudes for long and mediums. Those are really her two strengths. At the very end of the day, it's a free character. If you're going to grab this character, if you like the character, she's viable, you can run her. The problem is that her innate gold recovery, her innate gold skills and her gold recovery that's in one of her innate skills is a little bit troublesome. So you got a little bit of hang up there, but otherwise she's a perfectly fine character. You're just sort of behind a gold skill or two. The other problem is that, hey, you can't search Mambo on Game Tora. They should fix this bug. She doesn't pop up with Mambo. I don't know why. As a final note, Mambo, Mambo, Omatsuri, Mambo. About.